You, Catherine.
Thank you very much. Patricia Karvelas there with that interview. Let's take you now to a media conference in Sydney with the Australian Jewry co-CEO Alex Rivchin.
The Jewish community was not surprised by this announcement, but it does not lessen our disappointment. This will be viewed in our community as a punitive measure against Israel, a reward for Palestinian violence and intransigence, and a gesture that shows a fundamental failing to understand why this conflict has endured for so long and what is needed to end it. In announcing Australia's intention to recognise a Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly next month, the government has departed from decades of bipartisan consensus, which has envisaged Palestinian statehood and recognition as part of a comprehensive peace agreement between Israel, the Palestinians and the Arab states. Australia is now committed to recognising a state with no agreed borders, no single government and effective control of its territory, and no capacity to live in peace with its neighbours. Today's announcement acknowledges the need for all hostages to be released and for Hamas to be disarmed and removed from power. But who will now finish the mission of rooting out Hamas from Gaza or stop them from dominating in the West Bank? The Palestinian Authority, international peacekeepers? Only Israel has shown the willingness and the ability to confront Hamas. The commitments made by the Palestinian Authority to live in peace, to demilitarize and engage in widespread reforms are certainly welcomed. But conditions that cannot or will not be enforced are meaningless. The Prime Minister and Foreign Minister failed to clearly articulate how the commitments made by the Palestinian Authority will be enforced and the consequences to them if they fail. This announcement removes any incentive or diplomatic pressure for the Palestinians to do the things that have always stood in the way of ending the conflict, specifically the recognition of Israel as a Jewish state and the need to negotiate the 5 final status issues that separate the parties. Israel will feel wronged and abandoned by a long-standing ally. The Palestinian Authority will feel that a huge diplomatic prize has been dropped in its lap, despite its consistent failures to reform, democratize and agree to peaceful coexistence alongside a Jewish state. Hamas and other Islamist groups will see that barbarity on a grand scale can bring about political transformation. While we believe that the government sincerely believes in a two-state solution and that these moves will help achieve it, we fear that their actions, intended to sideline extremists, will have exactly the opposite effect. It will encourage Hamas to keep fighting and heap more misery on its people, and it will invigorate the most extreme elements of the anti-Israel movement in this country, and they will seek to escalate their activities and harm our social harmony further. Thank you very much. Happy to answer any questions.
A lot of people have spoken to today who agree with recognising the Palestinian state have pointed to the starving children in Gaza. Seems to be the topic necessarily tied together.
I think you've landed at really the key point here. You know, that this is being framed as a punitive measure against Israel, as something that needs to be done because of the dire situation in Gaza, but the solution has no relationship to the problem. We want to see the war in Gaza end. We want to see unlimited aid flow to the people who need it. We want to see Hamas disarmed and defeated and the hostages come home. But no one who supports recognition of a Palestinian state has so far made the argument compellingly as to how recognition will achieve these aims. The only way to achieve genuine peace between the parties is to defeat Hamas militarily, have peaceful reconstruction of the Gaza Strip, and then have a comprehensive peace summit between the parties to resolve the outstanding issues of the conflict, which are known and have been around since 1993 in the Oslo Accords. But acting out of malice or caprice or frustration with the war won't bring the parties any closer to peace, and it won't create a factual, long-standing and binding two-state solution.
And the question also remains about whether the Palestinian Authority will hold elections. What's your step?
Well, look, I mean, that seems to be one of the key requirements made of the Palestinian Authority, and no doubt Mahmoud Abbas will pledge to do that in exchange for gaining recognition. But how will that be enforced? And the Foreign Minister today said that, you know, she kind of knocked back questions or suggestions that recognition could be revoked if they don't meet conditions. But ultimately, what's to stop Hamas from again taking control of the territories it did in Gaza, doing the same thing in the West Bank, or other violent groups that exist in that society? This is the fundamental problem. I mean, the Palestinian Authority can pledge to hold elections, but how will they be enforced? Who will come to power? How will it be ensured that the Palestinian Authority and the territory it controls will no longer pose a threat to Israel? These are the fundamental questions that both the Foreign Minister and the Prime Minister evaded today.
What's the message to everyday Australians who don't yet stick with the devastating situation in Gaza and using that as a way to Israel government or just Israelis?
Look, we're all touched by the scenes in Gaza. No one can be human and not be affected by what they're seeing. Everyone wants to see an end to this war. Everyone wants to see the hostages come home, aid get to the right places, and an end to civilian suffering, which has been absolutely shocking. But unfortunately, Israel's been placed in a dire situation, in a situation it doesn't want to be in. And the only way to end this is by completing the task militarily and then peacefully reconstructing the Strip so it can never again fall to a terrorist organization that plunges the region into war. If there were an easy solution to end the war today, then no doubt it would be taken, but there is none, unfortunately. Israel could cease to fight, but that would leave Hamas intact in about 20% of the Gaza Strip. It would leave the hostages in dungeons underground in the most starved and brutalized conditions of any people on earth today, and that's not satisfactory for anyone.
Is the Jewish community surprised by today's announcement?
No, I mean, the writing's been on the wall for a long time, both in terms of the public statements by the Prime Minister and his cabinet, but also from our private discussions with government. We knew this was coming at some point in time, so we're not surprised. But as I said, it doesn't lessen our disappointment. It doesn't lessen the sense of betrayal or the feeling that the country's on the wrong path. Despite the best intentions to help resolve this conflict, I think this will have unintended and perverse consequences both in the Middle East and domestically as well. Thank you. Cheers.
That is Alex Rivchin there, the co-CEO of the Executive Council of Australian Jewry, speaking in the